Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Joining me here in just a matter of moments will be Dillon Atkinson, who is filling in for Ryan Blake today while Ryan is off on assignment, aka at his nephew's T-ball game. He is one of the coaches there. Today's show brought to you by Royal Farms. To no one's surprise around here, USA Today has named Royal Farms the best gas station for food in America. Take advantage of a 12-piece Rofo chicken mix for just $20. All varieties of chicken tender subs for just $7. Breakfast burritos for just $3.99. Plus, if you upgrade your Royal Farms rewards account to include Rofo Pay, you'll save 15 cents per gallon on gas through June 30th. So stop by your neighborhood Rofo today and find out why Royal Farms is truly number one. Joining us now on the show is Dillon Atkinson. Dillon, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. How about yourself?
Doing really well, especially after back-to-back victories for the Orioles against the Chicago White Sox, taking care of business against the worst team in baseball. Although, Dillon, it has not been easy. The Orioles took an 8-2 lead into the bottom of the ninth inning on Thursday and had to use three different relievers and get their closer involved, as they were only able to come away with an 8-6 victory after a controversial ending. There were runners on first and second, Andrew Vaughn on second base with one out in that game, and Andrew Benintendi at the plate. Now, Benintendi coming into the series had the lowest OPS of any player in baseball. I believe maybe any regular in baseball. Either way, he came to the series with a 482 OPS, which means he's going to have a big series against the Orioles, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He had a walk and an RBI single in that game. He comes up with the Orioles up 8-6, but he's the game-winning run at the plate. And I think that we're all scarred here in Baltimore as we I couldn't be the only person sitting there like, are you kidding me? Is Benintendi about to hit a walk-off 3-run homer? Instead, he hit a walk-off, but of a different kind altogether. Pop up to shortstop. Infield fly is called, but as Gunnar Henderson is running towards the pop-up, infield fly is called. Andrew Vaughn, going back to second base, inadvertently interferes with Gunnar Henderson's path to the ball. By the letter of the law, intent or no intent, he interfered and he's ruled out. And he was ruled out. It was a walk-off infield fly double play to end the game for the White Sox. I don't know how that works with an infield fly because it's an automatic out no matter what happens to the baseball.
Yeah.
But the interference call, I've never seen anything like this, Dillon. What are your thoughts on that? Was it the right call? And even if it was the right call, should the call have been made?
That's kind of where I'm going back and forth on it, because by the letter of the law, should it have? Maybe, yeah, possibly so. As an Orioles fan, you're like, holy crap, thank God that helped us escape to a win. As a baseball fan, I think that call is atrocious. Mm-hmm. I mean, could the umpire just be following the letter of the law? Maybe, yeah. Then maybe the rule needs to be changed. Because I'm not sure that there's even 90% of umpires who would make that call outside of that one umpire. It's really with the situation. That's the first time in my life at any level I've seen a runner's interference be called on an infield fly rule pop-up. I've never seen it called. I mean, not saying it's never been done. I just know not in my experience I've ever seen it. But just for all intents and purposes, for the situation of the game, I could not believe they made that call in that spot. Because, I mean, if they would not have made that call, I wouldn't have expected Brandon Hyde to come out of the dugout and argue it should have been an interference double play.
Sure.
I think that there has to be a little bit more feel to the game in that situation. Was there an impact to the play? No, there wasn't at all. Gunnar ran right around him, caught the pop-up, and even Gunnar was stunned by the call himself. Mm-hmm. So Was the umpire following the letter of the rule? Maybe. But if that's the case, then maybe the rule needs to be tweaked a little bit.
I agree that maybe the rule needs to be tweaked. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you just need to understand what's going on and not make a stupid call. Even if, because nobody's going to argue. Brandon Hyde's not going to come out and say, oh, no, he impeded Gunnar getting to the ball, and especially on an infield fly. If it's a ground ball and they can get a double play and he gets in his way, or if it's a line drive and he gets in his way, you have an argument. Right. It's a pop-up. It's called an infield fly, and that means that no matter what happens, the out is recorded. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's even a rule that states, like, this is the rule, except for on an infield fly, because that's just obvious. Either way, even as an Orioles fan, and it worked out to the Orioles' benefit, it was a bad call. It was a bad call, and it cost the White Sox an opportunity to at least tie, if not win the game with their next hitter. Yeah. With that being said, does the crew chief need to step in at that point and say, whoa, get together with his crew and say, we're not making that call? Or would every crew chief, and who was the crew chief for that?
Adrian Johnson, is he the crew chief of that crew?
He might be. Let me double check on this one for you.
I know he's an umpire in the crew. I'm just not sure if it's chief.
Let's take a quick look. Usually it's in the
game day notes.
Umpire. Let's see. It doesn't say who the crew chief is. Okay. It just says who the umpires all are. But whoever the crew chief is there a crew chief in baseball in a set of umpires that would have overturned that? Or do you just kind of say, look, this is my crew and I've got to back them and just let the call go? Because like we said, by the letter of the law, it was correct, but it's a bad time and a bad look to make that call.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think more times than not, you're going to see crew chiefs back up their umpires. And a lot of times, there's been fans all over who question if, during replay reviews, if they're hesitant to overturn calls because they're backing up their umpires. Who knows if that's true or not. But with how often, we have instances of replay failing us. But I think more times than not, you're going to see crew chiefs back up their umpires. But I think that was a case where they probably should have stepped in and said, you know what, we can't make that call in this situation.
Sure. So Grayson Rodriguez is a beneficiary of it all. He goes 5 innings, walks 5. Yeah. Struck out 7, but walked 5, picks up the lead, or picks up the win to go 5-1, to go to 5-1 for the Orioles. They win that game 8-6, enter the 9th inning leading 8-2. Jonathan Heasley, no business pitching on a major league roster. No business pitching on a team that believes it's contending for a World Series championship. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Jonathan Heasley. And then Yennier Cano did no favors by coming in and immediately hitting a batter and then giving up a 2-run single to have to bring Craig Kimbrell into the game in the first place. But the Orioles win that game 8-6. And then the most recent game last night, Orioles take on the White Sox and they win that game 6-4. Gunnar Henderson, 2 for 5 with a double and his major league lead tying 17th home run. He also drove in 2. Jordan Westberg had an RBI double and a walk. Adley Rutschman, playing the hero, comes in the 8th inning to pinch hit, knocks a 2-run single off of Michael Kopech, who had held lefties to a 3 for 34 stat line this season. Adley, best catcher in the game. He goes up there, a professional hitter, 2-run single to the opposite field. Anthony Santander scoring from first base on that single with a hell of a slide to evade the tag. I thought he was dead to rights at the plate. Yeah. And then he has this slide. The catcher goes diving for him, doesn't get him. Orioles get the second run, which they desperately needed, especially when you saw Colton Cowser end the game by making a leaping grab at the fence in center field, clearly robbing a home run for the 3rd out. Tried to give the ball to Craig Kimbrell. Kimbrell said, no, you keep that one. Yep. You keep that one. It's just a hell of a play to end the game. The Orioles come away with the victory in a game that they were up 4-0 in this game with their ace on the mound. And I'm sorry, no, they weren't up 4-0. They were up 4-1, weren't they? No, it was 4-0. It was 4-0. They were
Yes.
4-0 with their ace on the mound. And Burns gave up. The Orioles scored 3 in the fifth to go up 4-0, and then Burns immediately gives up 3 in the fifth.
Yeah.
And so then it comes to this, and this is the talking point here. And look, Dillon, you and I have followed each other on Twitter for a long time. I can be pretty polarizing with some of my opinions and some of my takes. And I will say this: Corbin Burns has given the Orioles 6 innings in every start but one this season. He has been as consistent as they come, right? Mm-hmm. And he's never given up more than 3 runs. I maintain that Corbin Burns has not pitched like an ace this season. And I say that not to say that he hasn't been good, because he's been very good. He's been very consistent. He gives the Orioles an opportunity to win the game every time out. But the fact remains, he's the only starter in the rotation that hasn't thrown a scoreless outing. He's gone 7 innings one time, pitched into the 7th only one other time. He has only hit the 100-pitch mark one time, and that was in his second start, and it was 100 pitches even. 2 starts ago, we saw him come out after 6 innings at just 85 pitches. Or I'm sorry, 85 pitches. And then last night, 6 innings, team's up by a run. He's at 92 pitches, and he doesn't come out for the 7th. In my opinion, an ace comes back out for the 7th inning at 92 pitches. In my opinion, an ace doesn't remove himself from a ball game after 6 innings at 85 pitches because he feels fatigued. This is a guy who's trying to get a $40 million annual average value contract at the end of this season. And to me, it seems like either he or Brandon Hyde, or a combination of the two, are holding him back a little bit to protect him for that contract. Again, he's been very good, and I love this rotation with him in it. I don't think the Orioles are as good without him on the team. But an ace, he is not. Top tier number 2, in my opinion. But I do not believe he has pitched like an ace, aside from maybe 2 starts this season, and that includes opening day.
Okay. I do have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to this season, did you consider him an ace?
Yes, I did consider him an ace prior to this season.
So one thing I was taking a look at was, how does this compare to what he's done in the past? And I looked at his numbers from last season and his game logs. And through the first 2 months of last season, Corbin Burns actually had 4 starts where he ended with 80-something pitches.
Really?
And only pitched at 100 or more twice. And in those first 2 months of the season, and that's in last season with the Brewers, he had 3 starts with 4 or more runs given up. Yeah. Now, from the point on, from June through the rest of the season, he wound up having, give me 1 second to count them up, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts with 100 or more pitches from June on. And only 2 starts that he ended with fewer than 90 pitches. One of them was a start in June. He finished at 86 pitches with 7 runs given up. He got blown up that outing. And then the other one was 66 pitches, his last start of the season, right before the playoffs. So that was probably a planned shortened outing there.
Sure.
So if he does anything like he did last year, it almost seems like he's kind of building himself up to go the distance here. Right now, his ERA is looking good. And I've had the same feeling as you, where he's not pitching that much deeper into ball games and stuff like that. He's averaging just a hair below 6 innings pitched this season per start. He's at I think 65 2/3 through 11 starts. So literally 1 out away from averaging 6 an outing. If this is an instance where he's kind of building himself along, and this is just how he's always gone about his business, then maybe there's more to come here. We'll just have to see. But, as far as ERA goes, his innings pitched and everything, it seems like he's kind of on par for what he actually has been doing his whole career. Kind of averaging out his WAR, both on Fangraphs and Baseball Reference. He's on pace for what he's done either last year or the year before. So I think if we've considered him an ace beforehand, Yeah, he's had some non-ace-like starts this season, but I think it's a little too early to take him out of the ace category when we're about a third of the way through the season. Now, I will say, and I think you'll agree with me on this since you posed the question, I think that the term ace gets thrown around a little too loosely around Major League Baseball fans. And some consider it whoever the ace is of a given rotation, that's an ace. No, I've always considered that there may be only a handful or maybe 10 tops of aces in Major League Baseball. And one thing I've started to wonder even this morning is the definition of an ace changing as the way baseball is changing? Because it is worth noting that even though we're expecting Corbin Burnes to pitch even deeper into games, he is actually within the top 5, I believe. Yeah, tied for top 5 right now in innings pitched in baseball.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's a Hyde thing. We've always had our concerns of Hyde pulling starters too early. We've all had that before. We've wondered if Corbin's played a part in it. We know he had the one start where he said he felt fatigued after the 85 pitches or whatever it was. But I'm wondering if it's beyond a Burnes and Hyde thing and more of a just this is kind of the way the game is now.
There's a point to be made there because especially with these power arm back end relievers where you get to the 7th inning like the Yankees when they had 3 closers in the back end of their bullpen when it was Robertson, what the hell's the guy's name, the piece of garbage who beats up women, Betances.
Not him for that definition, but
no. So
they had Chapman, Miller, all that.
When they had all those guys, it made sense. Your starter gives you 5 or 6 innings, and they leave with the lead. You're winning that ball game. See, for me, when I think of an ace, and I think we can agree that Eric Bedard was an ace in the sense that he could go out on any given night and strike out 15 guys and give up 1 run, right? Mm-hmm. But he also did not want to pitch beyond the 6th inning, and he just didn't have that mental makeup that you want from an ace, right? Mm-hmm. Which I believe Corbin Burnes has in spades. Right. So I think we can both agree that Corbin Burnes is the Orioles' first true ace based on what he's done throughout his career and what he was brought in to be this year. Their first true ace since Mike Mussina, right? And I go back, Mike Mussina is my favorite pitcher of all time and my favorite Orioles pitcher of all time. Obviously, that goes hand in hand. I go back to 1997. Where Mike Mussina was the ace of that Orioles staff. He was the ace of that Orioles staff every year from 1992 on. Yeah. And that was the year that the Orioles went wire to wire. They went to the playoffs. They should have won the World Series, but they lost that tragic series against Cleveland. And I look at what Mike Mussina did. I don't know if Dillon can hear me. He just exited and came back in.
I got you.
You got me? Okay. Yep. I look at Mike Mussina's 33 starts that year. He made 33 starts. 20 times he threw 7 innings. 20 times he threw 7 innings. And then another, holy crap, let me count this up real quick. Another 1, 2, 3, 4, another 4 times he pitched into the 7th inning. So 24 times in 33 starts, he at least pitched into the 7th inning. To me, that's what an ace does. I get that was 27 years ago, and the game has changed significantly. Just like you aren't seeing a guy like Jim Palmer who would throw 25 complete games in a season out of 40 starts 50 years ago. That doesn't happen anymore either. Guys won't throw that many complete games in their career moving forward.
If I can interject here for a second, speaking on that note, in 1997, there were 43 pitchers in Major League Baseball who threw at least 200 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many pitchers threw 200 innings in 2023 this past year?
I'm going to say 4.
5.
5 was my original guess.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't think it's 5.
Yeah.
It speaks to the point.
How much has changed.
It speaks to the point that the game has changed, right? And then I went back and I looked at Garrett Cole because in my mind, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, Garrett Cole's an ace. That dude goes and he pitches 7 innings almost every time out. And I look at Garrett Cole's first 12 starts through the end of May in 2023, he pitched into the 7th inning 3 starts in a row and 4 times in 6 starts in the month of April.
Okay.
But he only completed 7+ innings twice in those first 12 starts.
Okay.
He also gave up 5 runs or more 3 times in those 12 starts. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking Garrett Cole is an ace. More often than not, he gave them 6 innings last year. Now, from June on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts from June 1st on where he pitched at least 7 innings last year. I think Corbin Burns, I think I saw that it was 8 times he pitched 7 innings or more from June 1st on last year. So the jury's not even still out because he's Corbin Burns. We know how good he is. The ERA is 2.5. He has literally pitched 6 innings or more, 9 of 10 starts this year. Or is it, how many starts does he have?
He has 11 starts right now.
Yeah, so 10 of 11 starts, he's pitched 6 innings.
Pitched into the 6th inning.
Pitched into the 6th inning this year. I think 9 of the 11 he's completed 6 innings.
Yeah, only his start against Milwaukee, funny enough, was the one where his outing ended after 5 innings. But then he had he had the outing his at home against Kansas City and on the road against Kansas City where he went 5 2/3 in each of those.
Yeah. And so I guess in my mind, what an ace isn't what an ace used to be. And
right.
that's where the disconnect is, because an ace used to be that guy like Mike Mussina pitching into the 7th inning or further 24 times in 33 starts.
Right.
Now it's give me 6 innings, give me 2 runs or less every time out. You're an ace. And that's basically what Corbin Burns does. You can count on one hand with a couple fingers left over how many times he's given up 3 runs this year. So I guess I just have a heightened expectation of what an ace is, what an ace should be compared to what an ace is considered in this day and age. But I do agree with you. Ace is thrown out there way too much. It's thrown out there way too much. I mean, we used to call Chris Tillman and John Means an ace just because they were the best starting pitcher on the staff. Yeah,
I mean, I think you have your borderline, you have like your tiers of starters. You have your borderline end types. You know, you have your back end guys. You have your veteran innings eaters, your mid rotation starters, your number 2s, and then your low end 1s. And then you have that cream of the crop, the ace category, where you probably don't have more than 10 pitchers in that category in all of them.
And to be fair, Corbin Burns is probably in that category.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably in that category. It just doesn't feel like it, because I feel like more often than not, we hear the broadcasters talking about how Corbin Burns gutted one out despite not having his best stuff. You know, like last night, he clearly didn't have his best stuff. How many times have we heard, what a performance from Corbin Burns, who clearly didn't have his best stuff? Like, I don't feel like you should hear that more than a couple times about your ace throughout the course of a season. We've heard it like 5 times already.
Right. I mean, you know, we look back to like his opening day start and his start in Boston. It was like, that's what we expect coming in. And I think anything that's any worse than that, we're like, oh no, is Corbin Burns born broken? And but like when you boil down the numbers all together, it's kind of jiving in with what the top starters in the game are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. It's totally fair to look at that, and that was something that I wanted to do. Full disclosure here, I had a work golf outing yesterday, and it felt hot as blazes yesterday. Like, I was out there playing golf, and it was like 86 to 88 degrees. It felt like it was 95 degrees outside to me. That sun was boiling, and the UV rays were like really high yesterday. I saw the weather forecast and said high UV rays today. So I got a lot of sun. I felt like I didn't get to work on the show last night, so I didn't get home till after 11, and I got a lot of sun yesterday. I felt like a freaking zombie this morning. So I didn't get an opportunity to kind of look at these other pitchers' stat lines. But, you know, Corbin Burns is up there with the best pitchers in baseball as far as ERA and innings pitched this year. The K's, I feel like, are a little bit down, but I think that's okay. I will stand corrected because I don't believe he's the type of pitcher that should be giving up 3 runs. Excuse me. To the Chicago White Sox,
Right.
but you also have to figure he was only scored upon in 1 inning, and he had some foot traffic the other innings, and he managed to get out of it because that's what an ace does. Even when they don't have their best stuff, they still manage to keep you in the ball games, and that's what Corbin Burnes did. So I'll take a step back from the opinion that he hasn't pitched like an ace, and maybe I need to learn to lower my expectations of what an ace truly is in this day and age of Major League Baseball. But I do anticipate that he'll start getting into the 7th inning as the season goes on. Somebody said to me, they called me a clown, so I blocked them. But they said to me, it's only May. And that's true. I feel like the season is 3 months old, but it's only the end of May. The season isn't even a full 2 months old yet.
Right.
And, so Corbin Burnes is out there giving you 6 innings every start. And when was the last time the Orioles had a pitcher that did that? I mean, Kyle Bradish last year was that guy the second half of the season.
Right.
But aside from that, and Kyle Gibson would give you 6 innings every start, but he was also prone to give up 5 to 7 runs every now and again.
Right. He was that veteran innings eater, kind of that step below mid rotation starter, step above back end, and it was just like, but at least Corbin Burnes is going out there and it's 3 runs or less. You're getting into the 6. Yeah, we want him to complete 6 and possibly at least pitch into the 7th, and hopefully we see that more coming up this season.
For sure. If I were a betting man, I'd say we're going to see a lot more 7-inning starts from Corbin Burnes as the season wears on. But I'm not a betting man. But if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Now, Dillon, it wasn't that long ago that they were talking about a 6-man rotation, but keeping Corbin. It was last weekend talking about a 6-man rotation, but keeping Corbin Burnes on an every 5th day streak and utilizing the rest of the rotation the rest of the way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Now we look at it. John Means. And oh my God, you got to feel so bad for this guy.
Oh, yeah.
He comes out of that game. There's a rain delay after the 3rd inning, 3 shutout innings against the Cardinals the other day. He was coming out regardless. The velocity, he wasn't even hitting 90-91 with the fastball. He was in the high 80s. He was flexing that left arm. He comes out with elbow discomfort. He's on the 15-day IL. We don't know what the issue is, Dillon. They haven't told us, but the fact that they said that he's going to seek a second opinion makes you think the worst.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I hate to think the worst here, but that's immediately where my mind is going.
Right.
And in my mind, it's a very high probability that John Means just pitched his last game as an Oriole.
Yeah.
He's a free agent at the end of the season, and if the worst case scenario really is here, then yeah, his season's done. I hope it's not, but his season's done. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. He's probably going to be signing a prove-it deal once he gets healthy.
Once he gets that second opinion, maybe it's not a second Tommy John surgery. What kind of doctor is performing a Tommy John surgery and then 2 years later needs a second Tommy John surgery? Like what were you doing? Now,
Right.
Look, I'm not that guy to make that kind of a statement, but I feel like if you stand by your work, you shouldn't need to do the same surgery twice, right?
Right.
In a 2-year span. For all we know, it's just maybe he's got a stress fracture in his forearm, like what happened with Dylan Tate and what happened with Carlos Rodon.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, if he needs a second opinion, Dillon, I'm with you. I think he has pitched his last game for the Baltimore Orioles. And I mean, like you said, he's going to have to sign a make good 1-year deal with some team. Maybe it's the Orioles. Maybe they get him for the veteran minimum. I don't know, but it's not good when you don't even know what the problem is and you're hearing he's looking for a second opinion and you can't help but assume the worst. And with John Means, it's the talent that's there doesn't match up with what we've gotten. And what we've gotten is a guy who, when he's out there on the mound, he's as good as they get in Major League Baseball. but he has not pitched a full season in his entire career. He had the shoulder fatigue in 2019 and 2020. Then he got it again in 2021, where he missed about 5 starts in the middle of the season. 2022, Tommy John. Last year, doesn't come back to the final month of the season, then has the elbow fatigue. He's out for the rest of the out for the postseason. Starts this year a month behind schedule. Makes 4 starts, or was it 3? No, 4 starts. And now he's probably done for the season again. All the talent in the world, and he just can't stay on the field. Really feel for John Means, but if you're the Baltimore Orioles, you've got to push forward, right?
Yep.
And Cole Irvin, he has been phenomenal in the Orioles rotation. You don't want to mess with a good thing, and they slid him into the bullpen, but he's on turn to pitch without extra rest or less rest on John Means' next turn. So you're feeling good about that.
Yeah.
And then Dean Kramer, it's revealed yesterday he's got a right tricep strain, and he's headed to the IL. So now you go from having 6, potentially 7 starters to having 4, potentially 5 starters. Albert Suarez will be starting in Dean Kramer's place this afternoon against the White Sox. Jonathan Heasley was, thank God, optioned back to Norfolk. Dylan Tate replaced him. Nick Vespi is also coming onto the roster as a corresponding roster moves for Heasley and Albert Suarez. A lot of fans were speculating that it was going to be Cade Povich. I thought maybe for about 38 seconds. And then I realized, 1, he's not really giving you beyond 5 innings at AAA. 2, he's not on the 40-man roster. 3, he was pitching in AA all of last year. And at times it seems like he still has a little bit of control issues. I just don't think that they think that he's ready to take on that role. And if it's really just a 15 to 20 day stint for Dean Kramer, you don't want to disrupt Povich's routine down in Norfolk to have him up here for 3 or 4 starts and then have to send him back down. I think what happens with Cade Povich is he ultimately ends up coming up for the Orioles in the second half of the season to be part of their bullpen down the stretch. Albert Suarez, already on the roster, has already started 3 games for you, has been really good out of the bullpen for you. But he slides right in, able to take on that workload and hopefully get you 5 innings today. Your thoughts on why it's not Cade Povich and Albert Suarez getting the ball today in place of Dean Kramer?
I think you're absolutely right when it comes to possibly their anticipation on what this IL stint is going to look like for Dean Kramer. You know, if they felt that this was something that was going to be a little bit longer term, then I think, yeah, they'd be turning to either a Cade Povich or a Chase McDermott in this spot going, okay, kid, show us what you got, you know. But for this if this is really just going to be kind of a 15 to 20 day stint where you're talking about covering 3 starts, maybe 4, then, yeah, you just go ahead and slide Suarez right back in. Maybe this first start needs to be a little bit of an abbreviated one because he hasn't really been stretched out that much since he got moved to the bullpen. They haven't really used him in a long man capacity. They brought him in for these shorter 1 to 2 inning stints. So maybe we're not going to see Suarez pitch beyond, I don't know, 60, 70 pitches today. I don't know, just to get him kind of ramped back up, you know, kind of pulling him back and forth a lot there. But if this is really going to be a shorter stint, then it makes the most sense to throw Suarez in. I do think that I agree with you that guys like Povich and McDermott are going to be kind of like how the Orioles use DL Hall. You know, you're going to have him starting in Norfolk for most of the season. Then probably a big reason because of your the immediate needs of the team, 1, but 2, also because you probably have innings limits on these guys like Povich and McDermott, that they're going to be key contributors to the bullpen possibly in the second half of the season. So yeah. I'm okay with the decision. I did get a little bit excited, kind of like what you said, for a whole 38 seconds. Like, oh, maybe this is going to be Povich tomorrow because the last time he started was on the 18th. He's had more than enough rest. Sure. You know, he'd be perfect to slide right on in. And then I was like, I think it all depends on what's happening with Kramer here and what they think with Kramer.
And they have to make a 40-man move if they're gonna put Povich on the big league roster.
And they hate doing that.
Yeah, who are they gonna move? I mean, you could DFA Heasley. I don't think anybody would claim him. But then I believe he has the right to, I could be wrong, but I believe he has the right to deny an assignment at that point. But I'm not particularly sure. Either way, it's not Povich today. It's Albert Suarez taking on the White Sox. We'll get into that in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to ask you a question, Dylan. What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates?
That would be AJ Michaels.
You are absolutely you got it on your first guess. It took Ryan 4 weeks to get it on his first guess. AJ Michaels, heating and air conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. Check out more at ajmichaels.com. Dylan, one of the uncomfortable conversations about this team, and I feel like I have a lot of uncomfortable conversations about this team because they have all the talent in the world. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that they have the best 26 active players on their roster. The best 26 players in the organization on their active roster. I don't believe that they've had that at any point this year. And you look at their starting outfield, and their starting outfield is usually either Colton Cowser or Austin Hayes, and then definitely Cedric Mullins and Anthony Santander. With Austin Hayes back and swinging a little bit better of a bat since he came off the IL, it's been Hayes, Mullins, Santander. Last night, the three of them combined to go 0 for 9. And had 3 of the team's 5 strikeouts. Now, credit where credit's due. Game 1 of the series, Santander hit that game-tying home run. Mullins went 2 for 5 with 2 stolen bases. Austin Hayes came in as a pinch hitter and went 2 for 2 with an RBI. So, again, credit where credit's due. But you look at this outfield as a whole for the season. Hayes is hitting 167. Mullins is hitting 195. Santander is hitting 202. Only starting 9 last night with a lower OPS than any of those 3 was backup catcher James McCann. All of these guys have a track record. They're Hyde's guys. They're veterans. They've earned the benefit of the doubt here. Mm-hmm. It's almost June, and none of these guys are hitting with any consistency. None of them are driving the ball with any consistency. When does a move get made? Kyle Stowers is on the roster. Hessen Kjerstad was brought up to be gorilla glued to the bench, 17 at-bats in about 3 weeks. When does a move get made to get some of these guys more playing time and see if they can jumpstart an offense that's averaged less than 3 runs a game heading into this White Sox series for an entire month?
It's tough. It's real tough. I mean, I think we're starting to see Cowser move more into a pretty much everyday role, whether it's in left field, center field, or right field. They're kind of moving him all over between the 3 spots, but he's starting to get more consistent at bats, pretty much taking on an everyday role there. I think we're going to start seeing more and more of kind of a platoon develop between Mullins and Hayes to split that time while Cowser takes over the full-time reps. Right now, it's just getting Santander going from the left side of the plate. He's been absolutely crushing it from the right side against lefties, but from the left side, it's been a struggle, So I think Santander gets a little bit more leeway than guys like Hayes and Mullins do, just because of the seasons that Santander has had. Pretty much the last 2-3 seasons, it's all pretty much ended up at the same point, and you kind of got to have confidence that this season's going to find its way to get back up to that point, But with guys like Hayes and Mullins, who have had their fair share of struggles these past couple seasons, have had their fair share of injuries in and out of the lineup, it's tough to see because this is a trio that has been in it for the long haul and have kind of earned their keep. But, I still say that they made the move of Stowers for Kjerstad because they kind of looked at, okay, we like Kjerstad a little bit more and can't have him ride in the pine. Stowers, we can
100%.
more so have a defense behind keeping him on the pine here.
100%.
But I think we're going to slowly see this develop into more of a Mullins-Hayes platoon, each of them getting about half the reps there. And then, as time goes on, if things aren't kind of moving in a positive direction there, I think you're going to have to see a move for a Kjerstad there to kind of spark some pop into that outfield. Or maybe it's a situation where once he gets healthy, a Kobe Mayo comes up and kind of serves in a DH role just to try to pick up the slack on the offensive behalf. But I'm thinking it's got to be. I think they're still going to give him a little bit more time just because they've earned it for that long of a role. But time's going to come if we're in mid to late June, if we're a month from now, and things are not trending in a positive direction. I think we're going to see Hyde start to pull that plug. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised how quickly he made the move to go with Cowser over Hayes early on in the season before Hayes hit the IL. We saw Cowser hitting in the seldom opportunities he got, and then all of a sudden against right-handers, we pretty much started seeing a Cowser-Hayes platoon, which I did not think was going to happen at all. I thought Hyde was going to keep running Hayes out there because he trusts his guy. So I was pleasantly surprised that he ran Cowser out there that early and started developing a platoon there. Now I think that platoon is going to shift more to a Hayes Mullins with Cowser getting full-time reps.
And I feel like Colton Cowser, he's got a positive outs above average. He's been a good defender in left field and in center field. We saw him make that home run robbery to end the game last night. And it was a beautiful route. He took a beautiful route to the ball. He timed his jump perfectly. He made a home run saving catch to end the game. To me, he's looked the part in left field and in center field. I trust him to play center field. Last year, I did not. Last year, I thought he took very circuitous routes. I felt like he just did not look comfortable playing the outfield. This year, I feel like he's looked like one of the Orioles' best defensive outfielders. Yeah. And even though Cedric Mullins has great range, his range has gotten worse each of the last 3 seasons. Each year, the offensive peripherals have gone down steadily each season, and so has the defensive peripherals. Colton Cowser has earned the right to be playing every day. Now, look, the bat has to get going again. He put together a few hits here, a few hits there, but overall, he's been in a fairly extended slump. He certainly has to get things going again for you to justify him being in that starting lineup every day. But he's having a better year than Mullins. You're trying to contend for a championship this year. Something's got to happen. I agree that they'll probably get at least a few more weeks with Hayes and Mullins before they say, all right, we've got to do something else. And it makes you wonder, A, if a trade's coming, and B, what the trade value even is for any of these guys.
Yeah, that's kind of what I pondered as well. You have to think that they're running them out there, one, because they want to trust that their guy can turn it around, but also because I don't think they want to just straight up cut their losses with either one of these guys. They each have another year left in team control. They have brought value to this club in past years. I don't think they just want to look at him and go, that's a DFA candidate. They want to see, okay, if this isn't working out for us anymore, we at least want to see if we can swing a deal or something, even if it's for a minor league pitcher that, is going to be a reliever one day, but at this given moment, it's hard to see that they have any value there. The acquiring team's probably going to want a little bit of cash back to cover their arbitration salaries for the rest of the year, just in order to give up a 25-year-old single A pitcher. So it's tough to see. So I think that is part of the reason that they are running these guys back out there is if they want to see a Kjerstad come up, you got to make room for that. And the only way to make room for that is by swinging a deal. And I think it would more so happen with Mullins and Hayes just because the left-handed hitting versus right-handed hitting aspect there. Hayes might still have a job. If Hayes can pick it up a little bit, he'll still have a job here just for offering a right-handed option hitting outfielder off the bench.
Right. So, I think the writing is potentially becoming clearer and clearer on the wall for Cedric Mullins. And it's a shame because he's not even 30 years old yet. But the bat has been, since he came off the IL the second time last year, through the playoffs, through this point in the season, he has looked like one of the worst hitters in baseball, save for maybe a 10-day stretch earlier this year. Austin Hayes, we saw him tear the cover off the ball the first half of 2022 and then completely fall off a cliff and disappear the last 3 months of the season. Then we saw him do the exact same thing last season. Even when he's healthy, he's never put together a full season. And the second half of last season has transitioned into the first half of this season to this point. Now, we knew that he was sick in spring training and had a hard time getting going. We know that he got injured and was on the IL. So maybe he gets a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt there. But at some point, something's got to happen because you can't just keep trucking guys out there that are hitting 165 and expect to contend to win baseball games. And then, moving on to a team strength from last year that, at times has been a team strength this year. You look at the bullpen. And I look at a guy like Yennier Cano, who to me looks like a completely different pitcher this year compared to last year. He came into that game on Thursday night. He allowed all 3 inherited runners to score. He's been scored upon in 3 of his last 5 outings. And the one outing one of the outings where he says he wasn't scored upon was Thursday when he allowed all 3 inherited runners to score before even recording it out. I look at what Cano's been doing. Danny Coulomb has been absolutely nasty, but he's had some chinks in the armor at different points this year. Jacob Webb has been a huge surprise, but then there's also those times when he gives it up, and you remember what he did in September and October last year. And then Keegan Aiken looks like 2022 Keegan Aiken, where the first couple months you're just like, oh my God, if this is Keegan Aiken, this is awesome. And then, oh wait, no, this is Keegan Aiken. The bullpen 100% needs help.
Yes.
You hear people talk about all the time. You can't make a move this quickly because it shows desperation. And I understand that. Texas made a move to get Aroldis Chapman in like May of last year. And then they went on and they went on and won the World Series. It was well before the trade deadline. He was a pretty early season pickup for them. I don't think that you should be giving away the farm or putting yourself in a position to get fleeced by other teams, but you can't keep going out there with this bullpen and allowing them to give up leads late in the ball games or make games that shouldn't be close, have you sweating on the edge of your seat, butthole puckering. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I said it. You can't just continue to allow this to happen. And some of these ERAs look really good. I mean, Cano's ERA is still 3.18. But when you look at what he did last year compared to this year, he seems like a completely different pitcher. When is the time for the Orioles to make that move? Do they have the roster flexibility and the luxury of waiting till the trade deadline? I don't think with what they're staring at, 43 games in 45 days, the gauntlet, worse than any gauntlet that they faced last year coming up in the month of June. I don't think they have the luxury of waiting till the deadline.
No, I agree. Part of what makes this super tough is you can look at pretty much anyone in that bullpen outside of who's currently there, and Nick Vespi was Jonathan Heasley days prior. But you look at anyone else in that bullpen, and we've seen them be pretty damn good starter or pretty damn good pitchers, to where it makes it really tough when you do make that move, whether it's from outside the organization making a trade or maybe trying to see if you can get a spark from a guy like Povich or McDermott out of the bullpen, kind of use them in a DL Hall capacity of who do you get rid of? You don't want to make the wrong move of who you're removing, because the only guy you have in your bullpen right now that have options are Dylan Tate and Nick Vespi.
Right.
Everyone else would have
Aiken has an option.
Aiken has an option. I'm sorry. You're right. But really, you look at these guys like Jacob Webb, and you're like, I don't think the Orioles are going to give up on you, and they don't have a lot of flexibility out there in that pen to make these kind of moves and trust that the guy you're getting rid of is the right decision. They made that tough decision with Mike Baumann, who has shown promise in the past, got the lively fastball, got the good breaking balls and everything, but never could really put it all together. So that was a tough decision for the Orioles to make. And it just so happens that a day after they DFA him, then Means goes down, Kramer starts going down, and Jacob Webb forgets how to pitch. So, right. And it's like, if all this could have happened a different way, Mike Baumann's still in this bullpen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And everyone lost their minds. What was it, just a few weeks ago when Dillon Tate got sent to Norfolk, and it's like, who else are you going to send? Because everyone else has to go on waivers, and because you've seen everyone else in this bullpen, you've seen the greater sides of them, and everyone in this bullpen has been inconsistent right now. They don't want to put anyone on waivers because they don't want to make the wrong choice of who's going to turn it on as the season goes on, and who really is a lost cause.
Right. And you look at, now you're moving Albert Suarez back into the rotation after he had 7 outings out of that bullpen and a .9 ERA. Yeah. He was a really nice piece for that bullpen, and now he's out. Nick Vespi he's kind of that shuttle guy who, he's like the first call when you need somebody, like a 27th man on your roster, or you need an extra arm in the bullpen. He's that first call, but he's not a mainstay in this bullpen. I think Dillon Tate being here is a nice addition for the Orioles. I think he's a big league reliever who the circumstances dictated him going down there, not his play. But now you're in a tough situation where you just don't have a piece of that bullpen that you can really trust right now. And right now, Craig Kimbrell is the most trustworthy guy. And 3 weeks ago, we were talking about how bad he's been and what are the Orioles going to do with closer. I just don't think they can wait 2 months to make a move here. I think they've got to do something, especially when you look at what they're facing. 43 games in 45 days, 1 off day in June, facing nothing, 4 straight series against playoff teams from last year, against teams that are really freaking good this year. Like the Orioles took 3 or 4 from the Yankees a few weeks back. This is a different Yankees team now. And look, honestly, they were a good Yankees team back then, and the Orioles just happened to be playing their best baseball of the year at that point. The Yankees come in and face this Orioles team with the way they're playing right now. They don't lose 3 or 4 games. They probably win 3 or 4 games.
No, I agree. And they're without Garrett Cole right now.
Yeah, I mean, they have the number 1 ERA in baseball without Garrett Cole, and he's expected to come back within the next month.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough sledding for this team. And look, I do believe that they are as talented as any team out there, and that they are this close to being a legitimate World Series contender. But a month ago, I thought that they were the World Series contender.
Yeah,
and the crazy thing is, if they win today, they match their season high for games above 500, 14 games above 500. If they win today, if they sweep, they're a season high 15 games above 500. And we're talking about this team they're a fringe postseason team right now. But when you look at what the offense, and I misspoke, I said less than 3 runs a game for the last month. It's less than 4 runs a game for the last month heading into the series. Now they were right at 4 runs per game for the month of May. And they've now scored 14 runs in 2 games. So that number has gone up a little bit. The offense has been a little bit better. The approach has been a little bit better, which I like to see. They've been really all or nothing for about a 3-week stretch there. Yeah. So hopefully, that sweep against the Cardinals, which we kind of buried the lead a little bit, that 106 series streak of not getting swept got absolutely obliterated by the Cardinals to start this week. The Orioles go on a 7-game road trip against 2 of the worst teams in baseball and lose the first 3 games. Needing a sweep now to come back above 500 for the road trip. And I think they're going to sweep the White Sox. I stated on Thursday, the Orioles are winning this game 7-2 when they're sweeping the White Sox. I still believe that they're going to sweep them, but that doesn't change the fact that this offense looks like it's improving, but they need a little bit of work, and the bullpen has been really, really difficult to watch for an extended stretch now. And they were a strong point of this team not that long ago, but they need another arm or 2. I think they need 2 arms, but we'll see what they do, hopefully before the deadline. Like I said, not just to repeat myself one more time, I don't think they have the luxury of waiting 2 months to make a move with this bullpen, not with what's coming up.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, it may not even be a move outside the organization. Like I said before, it might be a move of Chase McDermott, come show us what you got. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Sure. It might be some of these other options you have in the Norfolk bullpen that you signed on minor league deals. Matt Crook, show us what you got, and see what you got just to get a different look at somebody. I mean, the Orioles have been known for years, and in the Mike Elias era, in the Dan Duquette era, and at times even in Andy McPhail era, for pulling relievers out of there, you know what. Cianel Perez came out of nowhere. Danny Coulomb came out of nowhere. Darren O'Day was a waiver claim by Duquette. And it just keeps on going down the list where just the Orioles for years now have been able to turn guys who nobody wanted into, oh, you're a back-end bullpen arm now. Congrats, Yennier Cano. And so the way they've been able to do that, you don't even have to go outside the organization yet, but you at least got to start getting different looks to different guys. And that's how the Yennier Cano era started last year, if you remember. The Orioles bullpen that April, it was in Chicago against the White Sox, was tanked and was not performing well. When the Orioles called up Yennier Cano, everyone went, why? Why him? Like, you got a couple other options down there. Why him? And then Brandon Hyde had no other choice because his bullpen was gassed to bring Cano in. And what was the eighth inning and bases loaded in his first game up? And it was like, I got this. And it was like, it was history for him.
Doesn't give up a hit or a base runner for 17 games.
Exactly.
Like, absolutely bananas, and then this is before we even talk about the fact that Tyler Wells is throwing again. And Tyler Wells ain't going back into the rotation. So when he's ready to go, that dude's sliding into the back end of your bullpen. They might give him some low leverage situations to start. Like maybe Albert Suarez a couple weeks from now goes 6 innings or goes 5 innings, and they bring him in for the 6th inning with the Orioles up 8-2 or something like that. So there are internal options, and there are arms to be had. What's his name? Helsley
with the Cardinals. Super affordable. He's got an extra year of control. He's only making, I think, $3 million this year. If the Cardinals make him available, the Orioles need to be all over it, I think.
Now, the Cardinals are playing some good baseball right now. They after sweeping the Orioles, I think they have won 8 of 10. They're playing some good baseball right now. So they might, and that Central Division is gettable. They might not think that they're out of it quite yet.
Right.
We're gonna be out of time if we don't get moving along here.
All right.
If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Kyle Gibson, Gavin Sheets, Tim Kirkshin, and Kyle Brenovich, find it all in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature today at PressBoxOnline.com. It is now time for the AL East wrap-up. Kerry Carpenter and Colt Keith each homered and drove in 2, while Kenta Maeda allowed just 4 hits over 5 shutout innings to pick up the win as the Tigers took care of the Blue Jays 6-2. Alek Manoah allowed 6 runs, 4 earned, including 2 home runs in 4 2/3 innings to take the loss. William Contreras homered and drove in 2, while Willy Adames added 2 doubles and 2 RBI to lead the Brewers past the Red Sox 7-2. Tyler O'Neill picked up the Golden Sombrero, going 0 for 4 with 4 Ks, and is now hitting just 157 with 2 home runs in the month of May after a scorching hot March and April that saw him hit 320 with 9 home runs.
Is that Jorge Mateo?
Yeah, right? And then finally, in a dream scenario that could only be envisioned by New York, the Yankees, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton each homered in a 5-run 3rd inning, and Carlos Rodon tossed 6 shutout innings to lower his ERA to 2.95 and pick up his 6th win as the Bronx Bombers shut down and shut out the Padres 8-0. Yu Darvish allowed 7 runs on 9 hits to take the loss, raising his ERA to a paltry 3.01. Allowed 7 runs, and his ERA is 3.01. That's the type of season Darvish was having. As for today's game, as we've already mentioned a few times throughout the show, Albert Suarez will take the mound for the Orioles this afternoon with first pitch slated for 2:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Suarez is 2-0 with a 1.78 ERA, though he made his last start on April 28th when he went 4 innings against Oakland, allowing 4 runs on 7 hits with 6 Ks. Suarez has made his last 7 appearances out of the bullpen, pitching to a 0.90 ERA in 10 innings, giving the Orioles a much-needed boost out of the bullpen. The White Sox will counter with right-handed pitcher Eric Fetty. Fetty is 4-1 with a 3.10 ERA and 1.086 WHIP this offseason. Fetty, the former 2014 first-round pick of the Washington Nationals, spent his entire big league career in D.C., never quite living up to the hype that comes with a first-round pick, pitching to a 5.41 ERA in 112 career outings with the Nats, before spending all of 2023 pitching in Korea, I don't know if they have a Cy Young award out there. I don't know if he won it, but if he didn't, I don't want to know who did. In Korea, Eric Fetty went 20-6 last season with an even 2 ERA in 30 starts. His last start for the White Sox, Fetty allowed 5 runs on 7 hits and 6 in the third innings pitched, but the previous 2 starts combined for 13 shutout innings, allowing 9 hits while walking none. With that in mind, we always do this show before the Orioles lineup comes out. Although since they play at 2:10, maybe that lineup came out already.
Check it now.
It's 11 o'clock for a 2 o'clock game. It's usually posted 3 hours before the game starts. So if it's
not seeing it,
it might come out before we finish the show. Let's see if they have lineups for this game. They do not have lineups listed for this game, but I'm sure it'll come out. My guess, I think Stowers gets a start today against the right-handed pitcher because they're facing the lefty tomorrow. And even though he has amazing reverse splits in his minor league career, he's not starting against the lefty. My guess is Henderson leading off at shortstop, Rutschman batting second at catcher, Ryan O'Hearn playing right field and batting third, Ryan Mountcastle playing first base. That bat really heating up. He's playing first base and batting fourth. Anthony Santander, the DH, batting fifth. Westberg batting sixth at third base. Colton Cowser batting seventh in center field, and Kyle Stowers batting eighth in left field, with Jorge Mateo at second base and batting ninth. How do you feel about that proposed lineup?
I don't have any disagreements there. You know, it's possible that one of Hayes or Mullins gets the start because it's Hyde's guys, but you know, it wouldn't surprise me being day game and everything. Hyde at least given Hayes or Mullins a breather here. You know, so it'd be good to see Stowers get in there. It also wouldn't surprise me terribly if a guy like Arias gets in the lineup over Mateo. Mateo's been playing a lot lately, you know, and he's earned every little bit of that playing time. You know,
he's been fantastic. The defense at second base has been top notch, and he's been getting on base and stealing bases and driving the ball out of the ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the starts he was getting in what was it, the third series of the season in Pittsburgh, and there were a lot of people saying Mateo's looking a little rusty, a little shaky at second base right now, and he's just taken off and treated like he always did at shortstop. He's been outstanding defensively at second base, and with the consistent at bats, he's actually been doing pretty well. So, but we've all seen the story with Mateo before. So ride it till the wheels fall off.
Ride it till the wheels fall off. The batting average, I believe, is down to it's 247. I think is what the batting average is down to right now.
Is that what
for Mateo? But we've always said if Mateo can hit 240, 250, he's a 5-win player. If he can hit 240 or 250, and you mentioned that Pittsburgh series. He and Gunnar made back-to-back plays in that third game. They had no business losing. I mean, Dean Kramer gave them 7 innings of 2-hit ball, no runs. He had no business losing that game. And Gunnar Henderson made a diving play up the middle. And then the very next play, the next batter, Jorge Mateo makes an even better diving play up the middle, throwing across his body to get the out. And he has been, in my opinion, the best defensive second baseman in baseball since then. Everything that he does there. And I know that, we always go a little long anyway, so I'm going to do this. With the way Mateo is playing, do you think that there's any chance we see Jackson Holliday before August at this point, or even September, or at all the rest of the season?
I think there's a chance. I mean, he's got to get it going. Right now, he's still a little bit inconsistent since he got sent down to AAA. He's having his highlights. He's hitting his homers and everything. But you're seeing a lot of these 1 for 4s, 1 for 5s.
He's walking a lot, but he's hitting like 220 since he went back down.
But I think if Jackson Holliday starts going on a 3-week tear at Norfolk where he just can't get out, I think the Orioles would take advantage of that opportunity if they felt he's made the necessary adjustments that he's needed to make, which I can't remember who brought it up before. It may have been Jake Rill, may have been Calvin Meyer. I'm not sure who did, but they've already noted some mechanical adjustments that Holliday has made in Norfolk since he's been back there. So it's good to see that, he's taken that seriously. But, if he starts going on a tear, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't bring him back up, because even though Mateo is batting 247 and everything like that, that's also coming with some drastic platoon splits right now. He's batting 289 with a 373 OBP, 578 slugging against lefties, while batting 208 with a 220 OBP against righties. So
Mhm.
if Jackson starts going on a tear, you bring him up and you immediately slot him into a platoon with Jorge. Jorge can still get his starts against lefties and let Jackson mash the righties.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense because then you're still seeing Holiday play more often than not. You don't want to call him up to not play.
Right.
But you look at Jackson Holiday through last night's game. He did go 2 for 5 last night. He had another walk. He did strike out twice, but he went 2 for 5 with a run scored. You look at Jackson Holiday in 24 games since getting sent back down to the minor leagues. He's slashing 234, 395, 383, 778. His batting average on balls in play is 297. So he's walking a ton. He's averaging more than a walk per game. He's also averaging more than a strikeout per game. But maybe that bat, he's got 3 hits his last 2 games, swinging for a little bit more power recently. Maybe that bat's starting to come around. Generally, like last year, you would see him go in these little slumps where for like 2 weeks, he would hit like 230. And the next thing you know, he goes on a 3-week stretch where they can't get him out, like you said. And maybe that could be starting right now for him. We'll see. He's been playing better. We've all noticed the mechanical adjustments. He's a little bit. Is it taller or shorter? He's a little bit shorter in his stance. The leg kick's still there, but I think he's going to pick it up. But until Jorge Mateo, like you said, ride it till the wheels fall off. Until Jorge Mateo proves he shouldn't be in the lineup every day, Hyde's going to roll him out there, and it could be pushed off a bit until we see Jackson Holiday.
Sure.
Today's show brought to you by a brand new sponsor. High school sports season is winding down. For recaps and news on all of lacrosse, baseball, and softball championships handed out so far, and schedules for the rest of the championships to be determined this weekend, visit countysports.zone. County Sports Zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealers and buyatoyota.com. Dylan, the rest of what's going on with the Orioles through our show next week. After today's game, the Orioles conclude their series in Chicago tomorrow afternoon with another 2:10 start and a matchup between Kyle Bradish and left-handed pitcher Garrett Crochet. Bradish has a 2.41 ERA with no record on the season, but in his last start, he was cruising through 5 innings of 1-run ball with 6 Ks on just 74 pitches when a rain delay prematurely ended his outing. He has allowed 2 runs or less in each start, but has failed to go beyond 5 innings yet. Garrett Crochet is 5-4 with a 3.75 ERA, but a 0.954 WHIP in 11 starts, and he has 74 strikeouts in 57 2/3 innings pitched. Crochet is absolutely dominating right now. He's allowed just 1 total run in his last 4 starts combined, covering 23 innings. However, from April 7th to April 29th, the White Sox lost 5 consecutive Crochet starts, with Crochet allowing 21 earned runs in just 21 2/3 innings pitched during that span, which is in a 4 1/3 innings pitched per start average. Following tomorrow's game, the Orioles return home to take on the Red Sox for 3 games, starting with a Memorial Day matinee at 1:35 before a much-needed off day on Thursday. And then they welcome the Rays into town to begin their season series with Tampa with 3 games over the weekend. Any thoughts on Garrett Crochet before we pay our next bill?
Crochet is nasty. He's absolutely nasty. But if any of my visual history or what I choose to remember proves me right, Orioles are mashing lefties this season. And it seems like they prefer to face guys like Crochet over soft toss and junk ballers who get a lot of contact. That's where they struggle. So if my selective memory proves me right, I think they should have a good game tomorrow against.
And I think that
approaches.
I think that furthers the point that Arias is likely playing today, because Mateo is going to play against the lefty tomorrow. They don't want to not give Arias another start after he got that start again on Wednesday against the Cardinals in the final game of the series. I don't think he should be on the roster, but he is, and I think that he's going to get an opportunity to play today with that lefty coming tomorrow and Mateo mashing lefties. So I agree with you. It's going to be Arias probably playing third base and Westberg sliding over to second base today for the Orioles. A new edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles pitcher Grayson Rodriguez, talking to many of the people that have been part of his path to potentially becoming a homegrown ace. Plus, reflections on the life and legacy of legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Driesell, and more. The new print issue is available now at your neighborhood Royal Farms and any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Plus, you can read the entire print edition at PressBoxOnline.com. Let me just do a little tidying up here on these reads. I did that read like 4 minutes ago, so we'll say 11:06 for County Sports Zone. Little behind the curtain look here at how we track the sponsors that we've read. Now it's time for everybody's favorite, Dillon. It is Take to Rake. Last week, Ryan and I are tied at 2 wins apiece in the standings. Last week, I took Colton Cowser. He went 4 for 20 with a double, an RBI, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. That's a 200, 333, 250, 583 slash line. Yuck. However, Ryan took Jordan Westberg. Westberg had his, in my opinion, worst week of the season. He went 4 for 26 with a double, a triple, an RBI, 4 walks, 3 Ks, but that's a 154, 267, 269, 536 slash line. In other words, Colton Cowser had the better week.
I think you both took an L here.
I'm not going to give myself a win for a guy who hit 200 with a 583 OPS. I'm not going to take a loss for that because Jordan Westberg was worse. So we're going to change these standings from 2-2 to 2-1.
That's fair.
With that being said, I'm not going to let you pick first for Ryan. Your pick go. You and Ryan are good buddies. Your pick goes for Ryan since you're filling in for him.
James
However,
I'm just kidding. He would kill me.
But he took Roofnet Odor on this show 2 years ago. He took Roofnet Odor. Somebody else, I think it was Jason La Canfora, took who was the catcher for the Orioles? Pedro Severino.
I was going to say Severino or Chirinos.
He took Pedro Severino a couple of years ago, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you just gave somebody a win. That's not even a real pick. I thought the same thing when Ryan took Odor, and Ryan did not win. I can't let you pick first because I won last week, and my pick had a better week this past week than Ryan's pick, even though they both had bad weeks.
Okay.
Who am I going to take? So let's see. It doesn't really, you know what? He's there for the taking. He's the best player on the team. I'm taking Anthony. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take Adley Rutschman. I wanted to take Gunnar.
Ooh.
I wanted to take Gunnar because he's mashing lefties and righties. He's an MVP candidate. But that's so easy to take him. It's so easy to take him. It's like, duh, every other week, if you win, every other week you're picking him. You can't pick him back to back. But if he's available every other week, you're doing it. I don't want to play that game. I'm going to give me Adley.
Okay.
Because I just think Adley coming off the bench last night with a big 2-run hit. He was Glenn Clark's player of the man of the match for a pinch hit 2-run single to give the Orioles the victory. I got to go Adley.
Yeah, I'm actually in a Orioles like homer pick league that's like 75 people on Facebook, and it's just take one player to hit a home run every single night. And I'm at a point where I just continue to pick Gunnar Henderson every single night because I'm seeing where the league standings are right now, and it's pretty much right along with Gunnar Henderson's home run total. So I'm like, I might as well just stick on Gunnar Henderson's home run total because that's going to be at the top of the standings at the end.
Right.
But yes.
Let's do it. I'm taking
Gunnar.
You have to.
Gunnar.
I already wrote it on the notes. You can see the notes.
Oh, you did.
I already wrote it on the notes. There's no way you're not taking. If Gunner's there, you're not taking him.
I know.
Like he's Gunnar Henderson. It's so funny at this golf outing. There's one guy who's an LO in our company who played baseball for Maryland. And there's another guy who's just a big baseball fan, and they were both sitting right next to me. We're talking baseball all night. And the guy says to me, he's like, you think Gunner's going to homer today? I was like, yeah, man, he's due. He goes, he's due. He just homered in 4 straight games. I was like, yeah, but that was like, but then he's gone 4 games without a homer now. He's going deep tonight. Yeah, he said he's due. And he hit a home run last night. Me not taking him might bite me in the ass, but I love Adley. And Adley's been like the most consistent hitter on the team all year. He, Gunner, and Westberg, like the most consistent offensive players for the Orioles all season. I got to take Adley. Got to take him. So now it comes to the point in the show. All of our reads are done. We've got a little bit of fan interaction here. Let's go. Randall, good morning, guys. Was the right call? Oh, Randall, with the controversy, says it was the right call. Again, by the letter of the law, the interference call was the right call.
Right.
It's just like there's got to be some human discretion here.
Right.
To say, I'm not going to make this call. Not one person watching that game, whether on TV, in the stands, or in the dugout, would have thought twice about it if you didn't make the call. The right call isn't always necessarily the right call, if that makes sense. It was the right call was the wrong call in that game. I don't think you make that call.
I agree.
Randall says, when infield fly rule is called, runner must get back on the base. He was getting back on the base. He was running in his baseline. It just so happened that he didn't see Gunner, and it just so happened that Gunner, the infield was playing in, and Gunner happened to be coming, or maybe not in. I think they were playing a double play depth with the corners in. Mm-hmm. And I think that Gunner,
he was directly behind the runner. Gunner was playing directly behind the runner. Yeah,
directly behind the runner. Like it was gonna happen. You can't make that call. The circumstances don't call for it there. Yeah. Randall goes on to say, runner must get out of the way. He didn't do that, but he didn't get in the way. He ran back to the base. He has the right to the base. He has a right to the base path. You know, it's the right call, but it's just not a good call.
Yeah, I agree.
Why does it make a difference what inning it is? I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. If that happened if that happened in the 6th inning, nobody's talking about this the way they're talking about it in the 9th inning because it happened to end the game.
Right.
You know, if that doesn't end the game, you know, if it's not a double play to end the game with the go-ahead run at the plate, if it just happens in the 6th inning, there's different reactions all the way around. And you probably have more people saying, well, yeah, he got in his way. They're probably agreeing with the call more than they are because it happened when it happened. That's a really fair point. Fair point. Randall, Gunner, Adley, and Westberg carried this team to the win. Yeah. Which is, we literally just said, Gunner, Adley, and Westberg have been the most consistent offensive players for. Oh, by the way, Dillon, I don't think we did viewer interaction the last time you did the show.
Correct.
A lot of these comments are from Randall. A lot of comments are from Randall and AJ Mukherjee. Just so you know. Yeah, Gunner, Adley, and Westberg have been carrying this team all year, which is why I said I didn't agree with the timing of the pasture. Because all 3 of these guys have been more consistent and deserve to have a section named after them before Colton Cowser did. I'm not
Why
saying
do you
never.
hate Cowser, Paul?
Apparently, if I don't agree with the timing of the pasture, it means I hate the player and think he sucks and I'm a villain. God, man, heaven forbid I have an opinion that doesn't go with the masses. Good Lord. Burns was, man, Randall, we got to work on your spelling for these players' names. Last week it was Hayes with an E, but he said it was an autocorrect. This week he spelled Westberg with an E and Burns with no E. I think it's just the E's throwing Randall off. But he has an E at the end of his name that could be Fracassi or Fracasse, so maybe it's intentional.
Or maybe it's silent altogether.
What?
Or maybe it's silent altogether. We don't know.
Maybe.
Let us know, Randall.
He has let us know about his name in the past. And I believe it's Fracasse.
Okay.
Burns was off, but he was off. It's not fair of me to say that he's not an ace, because again, we talked about this. The definition of an ace has changed with the times.
Right.
You're not going to see guys just like from in the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s, you saw guys throwing double-digit complete games every year. Now you're not going to see a guy who even throws 10 complete games in his career, and let alone in one season. I probably need to lower my expectations of what an ace is to stop thinking an ace needs to give you 7 innings more often than not. I still think that they need to get into the 7th inning and beyond, a third of the times out there.
Oh yeah.
But, but to sit there and say to the guy who's giving you 6 innings every time out and 3 runs or less every time out and usually 2 runs or less, for me to say he's not an ace, not exactly fair. Mussina had a .662 winning percentage, best in baseball at the time. That was always my favorite stat with Mike Mussina. It seemed like when I was a kid, every game I went to, he happened to be starting. And I don't know if my dad planned it that way or if we were just lucky, but I saw Mike Mussina pitch live like 30 times as a kid.
That's awesome.
Like, it was so cool. And like, because you got to watch them win almost I remember I went to a game against the Royals that the Orioles lost 4-0, and I was devastated because they didn't lose and Mussina started that game, and they did not lose when I went to the games because it was always Mussina on the mound. And the Royals sucked in the 90s. So watching them lose 4-0 to the Royals was like, I think that's where all this started for me. All this negativity that I have. Like, it was just a devastating in-person game for me.
Meanwhile, I think the majority of I think the starting pitcher for the Orioles that I've seen the most live of, unfortunately, I believe is Daniel Cabrera. So
I caught a lot of Sidney Ponson starts in the early 2000s.
Okay, there you go.
I was at, one of my biggest and most favorite claims. I was at a game in 2004. The Sidney Ponson started for the Orioles against the Giants, and I watched Barry Bonds hit a home run onto the flat court. And then I was at the game last year where Shohei Ohtani hit a 460-foot home run off the gate in right center field.
Oh.
So I've watched 2 unicorns in the history of baseball homer at Camden Yards. I got to watch Barry Bonds and Shohei Ohtani hit homers at Camden Yards.
That's awesome.
Never once got to Griffey, my favorite player of all time. The kid, never once saw him homer at Camden Yards. The closest I came, he had a bases loaded double off the right field scoreboard. That was the closest I came to seeing Ken Griffey Jr. hit a home run. But it was getting back to this comment. Mike Mussina with the .662 winning percentage. He had the highest winning percentage in baseball for his career. Like, if it was the best in the history of baseball at a certain point, with a minimum of a certain number of starts. And it was that way for like 4 or 5 years. And it was one of my favorite stats because it was like Mike Mussina. Like, we know that wins and losses is an antiquated stat for pitchers these days because it has less to do with the pitchers than it ever used to.
Right.
But it was just like a really cool stat.
Oh, for sure.
Is it possible the hitters are getting better than the starters? It's possible. It's not impossible, but it is improbable.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not impossible, but I think it's the game evolving as a whole. The hitters are better now than they ever were previously, and the pitchers are nastier now than they ever were previously, with higher velocity than they ever had previously, and are burning their arm out a whole lot more than they did previously.
I was looking at some Orioles stats. Like that 2004 Baltimore Orioles team, they absolutely torched baseballs. Yeah. They destroyed baseballs, right? And I went back to look at their stats because I just have, like, they were 78 and 84. It was the best team during the dark years that the Orioles ever had. Right. And, I mean, you look at Miguel Tejada, 311, 34 homers, 150 RBIs. Melvin Moore, 340, 27 homers, 104 RBI. You had Palmeiro and Javi Lopez each homered 23 times and drove in 86 or more. That team absolutely raked. I remember David Newhand, 311. It seemed like all he did was get on base for 2 months.
Yeah.
That team hit 281 as a team, and it was only third in the American League.
Yeah.
It was only third. You go and you look at the stats now, and this just proves how nasty the pitching is. That baseball team won 78 games. They were 6 games below 500. They hit 281 with a 345 team on base percentage, and they lost 84 games that year.
Mm-hmm. You talk about how games have evolved not only with hitters but with pitchers getting nastier now. and all that. I mean, when we saw Zach Britton first go to the bullpen in 2014 and start throwing 96-mile-per-hour sinkers, it was the most unthinkable thing at that time in 2014, you know? And now, if you're not throwing a 96-mile-per-hour sinker, what are you doing with your life?
CNL Perez throws a 98-mile-an-hour sinker, and he's got a 5.5 ERA.
Exactly.
They voted Zach Britton's sinker the best pitch in baseball.
And now every pitcher in baseball has it.
And it was 6 years ago. And now every pitcher in baseball, 6 years ago, wow, it was 8 years ago. And now every pitcher in baseball throws that pitch. Every reliever can throw that pitch.
You have Johan Duran in Minnesota throwing splitters that he calls a splinker at 96 miles an hour.
Exactly. It's absolutely bananas. Now, that 2014, they hit non-pitcher totals hit 282 as a team. The number one hitting team in baseball right now is the Houston Astros, and their team average is 265.
Yeah.
The Philadelphia Phillies have the best record in baseball by a good bit right now. Their team batting average is 258. We talk about how bad the Orioles offense has been. They are 15th out of 30 teams in hitting at 243. They're right in the middle of the pack hitting 243, which means there are 15 teams below them that are hitting worse. The worst hitting teams in baseball, the Reds 215, the White Sox 217. There are 6 teams hitting below 230. The hitters are not better than the pitchers. The pitching has gotten so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Randall goes on to say Means and Tommy John looks more probable. Bummer. I think it's. I'm going to hang my hat on a stress fracture. I don't want to believe that he just had Tommy John surgery 2 years ago and he already needs it again.
Yeah.
I'm hanging my hat on a stress fracture here.
Yeah.
It's still not good, but it's better than Tommy John.
Yeah. I'm hoping the best. I'm hoping for the best. I'm not feeling optimistic on that right now.
AJ chimes in. I guess Paul and I were both wrong. The Yankees look like the best team in baseball right now. God, this sucks. Look, I liked this. I wanted Marcus Stroman in this rotation so badly, and I thought what they got him at 3 years, $37 million. That was so doable, and the Orioles didn't make that move. And he looks as good as ever for the Yankees, pitching for his hometown team. Carlos Rodon, I thought his career might have been done. He's been dominating, except against the Orioles. Nestor Cortez is back to his 2022 form. Luis Gil has been an absolute revelation. Clark Schmidt has been damn good. Oh, and by the way, Garrett Cole is coming back. Oh, and by the way, Juan Soto has helped Stanton and Rizzo turn the clock back. Putting Juan Soto in that lineup, that team is so good. And it hurts me to my core to say that out loud, because I looked at that roster to start the year and I was like, the Orioles are so much better than them. And they just are not. They just aren't.
Yeah,
I hate to say it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, and it's worth noting, we still got a long season to go. And tough stretches are going to make us think the worst of the O's too. But you know what I mean? So, I mean, they could turn around in this upcoming month, which after this series against the White Sox, I believe they're playing 10 consecutive games in the AL East. I think against Boston and Tampa Bay, and then Toronto. They could turn around and go 8-2 or 7-3 in that span, and we're going to be like, we're so back.
Absolutely. And look, the offense looks like it's rebounding. The pitching has been really good. The starting pitching has been really good all year.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm looking at the Orioles rotation from 2004, and Rodrigo Lopez 14-9 with a 3.59 was the ace of that staff. Sheesh. There's Daniel Cabrera 12-8 with a 5 ERA.
Yeah.
With 89 walks to 76 strikeouts. Good Lord.
The best thing we ever got from Daniel Cabrera was the giveaway the Orioles gave, where it was a life-size poster of Daniel Cabrera where you could measure your height as a kid.
Oh my gosh! Like he ever earned that?
Oh, great! I'm still at his knees. Like,
oh my god. We will leave that comment alone, Dylan. Country says the lefty Povich gets a nod. I don't know who you are, Country. I appreciate you tuning in. You have some good comments on here today. They announced last night that Albert Suarez is getting the start for the Orioles, so Povich will be getting the nod, but for AAA, I believe, today. He also goes on to say, definitely need to improve team average and on-base percentage. I agree. I don't think the 241, 243, 300 on-base percentage, a 243 average with a 300 on-base percentage is ever acceptable. I don't care what day and age that we're in. I don't think that is ever acceptable for a team that expects to win.
If I can cut you off real quick, lineup just got posted, and we were pretty much dead on.
Is Arias playing?
Yep, Arias over Mateo. It's exactly what your prediction was. O'Hearn is in right field, Santander's DHing, and then at the end, Stowers is in left field, Kowser in center, and Arias is batting ninth, playing third base.
Yep, it made too much sense to get Stowers and Arias to start today, especially after knowing it's a lefty tomorrow and Arias does not hit lefties well, and Mateo torches them. It made too much sense. Yeah. Country also says, good show, fellas. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Comment every show. We do this fan interaction every show, so thank you for that. AJ Mukherjee, they got to be able to package Mullins and Hayes for a reliever. Outfield should be Kowser, Mateo, center field, Stowers left field, Santander right field, Norby second base, Kjerstad DH. Mateo's going to play. What'd you say?
Someone's got to want him.
Yeah, somebody's got to want to be willing to give you what you're looking for. But also, Mateo is probably not going to be playing center field unless they absolutely need him to. Yeah. He's going to be playing second base just about every single day. If Norby gets called up, he's going to fill that Arias role as a utility infielder. He might get some time at DH. You'll see Kjerstad get time in the outfield and DH. I think you're more likely to see a Santander trade as part of a package to get more playing time for these guys who are younger and probably a little bit better at this point in their careers.
And the only thing really holding Norby back from getting a call up right now is he's really only been limited to second base, left field, and right field.
And he's not a great defender anywhere.
Right. And hasn't gotten any time at third base. They probably just have already nipped the bud there and said he's not going to play third base for us. And that's the only reason why Arias still has a roster spot right now is he's the only one that plays third base outside of Westberg.
Yep,
so
exactly.
If you put him off the roster, you don't have anybody else who could back up Westberg at third base.
And Gunnar has shown that he can play third base, but he's the shortstop on this team. He's the best player on the team. If he wants to play shortstop every day, he's playing shortstop every day. He earned that. And people were talking last year at the end of the season after he won Rookie of the Year. They were like, well, Gunner's going to play third base. He's the best third baseman on the roster. I said, no. Gunnar just won Rookie of the Year. He's the best player on the team. He's going to play shortstop every day for this team. He earned it, and that's exactly what they determined.
Yep.
Don C. Morning, guys. Thought with the injury they would call up Cade Povich. He's been killing it. He has been killing it. I just don't think that A, they think he's quite ready yet. B, I think that they don't want to have to make a 40-man roster move. And C, I think that he's more likely headed for the Orioles bullpen this year because even though he's been stretched out as a starter, he still has to accrue those innings, and they don't want to run him up against an innings limit when he can help the team by pitching less innings out of the bullpen. I think that that's ultimately what happens with Cade Povich. Randall, O's have to find another top reliever and maybe another quality starter. It looks like they might need another starter. I didn't think that was the case until, the last couple of days. Jesus Luzardo is going to be available from the Marlins. Maybe you can package something there to get him from the Marlins. I would love to see that at the deadline.
Yeah. And I think a lot's going to come down to how long is Kramer out for and how much longer can Cole Irvin keep this up for?
Right. He wasn't great.
If Cole Irvin keeps it up and can hold down a mid-rotation spot, then that spot's going to be his until he relinquishes it.
Until the wheels fall off.
Exactly. And by all intents and purposes, maybe Cole Irvin does turn around and give exactly what the Orioles thought they traded for, which was a guy to pitch with a high threes ERA and eat some innings for you. If that's what he does, that's a quality arm to have in a number 4, number 5 spot in your rotation.
Absolutely. I think that the Orioles have a legitimate starting rotation. Kramer going down, I think, hurts the most, to be perfectly honest with you, because whatever John Means gave you was a bit of a bonus, right? Because that with that injury history, what he's coming off from, and what he's looked at every year of his career, you're probably not getting a full season out of him. You already had, right? Kramer was looking like a guy who's going to throw close to 200 innings this year. He came out at the beginning of the year and said he wanted to throw 250 innings this year. He just wants to eat innings. And he was doing that for you. Maybe the ERA at 4.32 because of his last few starts haven't been great. But before that, he was pitching really well for this team. Kramer as a number 5 on this roster is really good. We just, like you said, it all depends on how long he's going to be out.
Yep.
So AJ says, so Texas got Chapman early and won the World Series, so the Orioles should get Trevor Bauer now with that logic. Who said they should get Trevor Bauer? Like, who said that? Trevor Bauer hasn't even been mentioned. The Orioles aren't going to touch. Nobody in baseball is touching Trevor Bauer with a 10-foot pole.
No.
I never said that. My argument was that it shows it's a sign of desperation to go make a trade at this point in the season for a back-end reliever, even though that's what the Orioles desperately need. But to counter that argument, to play devil's advocate, was Texas traded for Chapman in like late April, early May last year, and they went on to win the World Series.
Or is AJ's comparison here because of the off the field comparisons between Chapman and Bauer?
I wouldn't want either one of them on this team. I would
I'm good.
Yeah, with Chapman, you lay a finger on a woman, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't want anything to do with you. Chapman can go kick rocks. Trevor Bauer can go kick rocks. And I know Trevor Bauer's been exonerated, but there were more claims than just that one woman. Are there really a handful of women out there coming specifically after Trevor Bauer? There's other dudes that make money, And
if nobody in baseball is touching you with a 30-foot pole, why would we want the Orioles to?
Right. They just aren't going.
Especially for an issue that may not even be an issue when it comes to the starting rotation.
And not to mention Trevor Bauer, who struck out 20 in the Mexican League the other day. That's like me facing little leaguers. Like I'd strike out 20 little leaguers right now. Like Trevor Bauer he did that against like low A, like high A, double A competition. He's not doing that against big league teams.
So he's like Gus with the bench warmers.
Exactly. Birth certificate, his picture, and it says, I am 11 years old. Oh, okay. It's written in crayon.
Yeah.
You guys think Henderson eventually drops down to the 3-hole? 2 biggest weaknesses for sure, bullpen and outfield. I'm not this year. I think Henderson stays batting leadoff. The only time he dropped down was when Hyde didn't want to have back-to-back lefties at the bottom of the order and then at the top. That was was the only time.
I do think there could be a time when if someone else kind of proves to kind of that they can take on that on-base percentage role at the top of the order, they could, just because, I mean, what's Gunnar on pace for right now? 40-something home runs, 50-something home runs. And
54 home runs, 118 RBIs as a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, so you might want to try to slide that into a position where those home runs are coming from more runs driven in perspective instead of all these solo shots he's having. Or maybe it's a situation where you just do a slide down of everybody. If you want to slide Westberg into that leadoff spot, or maybe if he can pick it up and get on a hot streak, maybe you could slide Kowser into that spot, and then slide. And whether it's move Gunnar down to 3, or you just bump everyone down 1 from there and go Gunnar 2, Adley 3.
I will tell you that they love Adley batting second.
Yeah.
I've been saying since last year, not too outwardly, because I don't really have an issue with him hitting second. I think Adley's a perfect 4 hitter for this team. He gets on base. He has power. He drives in runs. I think Adley could hit 4th for this team. I think Westberg could hit 4th for this team. My ultimate top 4, I think at the end by in the next month or so would be Gunnar and either Adley or Westberg batting second, Kowser 3rd, and either Adley or Westberg batting 4th. I don't necessarily like O'Hearn as a 3 hitter. I think he profiles more as a 5 hitter. I think Santander and Mountcastle should be hitting 6th and 7th in this lineup. And then I'm okay with Mullins and Mateo at the bottom of the order. But I think having the power, like you are more, I'd be more accepting of Santander back to back if they're hitting 6-7 rather than 3-4 or 4-5. You've got some really good hitters that can hit in the top 6 and that can hit the top 5 in your order that would really just be gangbusters for you.
Yeah, I mean, I For me, I do like your opinion of Adley in the 4-hole, but for me, I would always want to make sure that I have both Adley and Gunnar somewhere in that top 3 in the lineup, because I wouldn't want a single game to go by that there's a possibility that one of Adley or Gunnar is not getting an at bat in the first inning.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Absolutely great point. And that's the only reason
they have the on base percentage where you want an opportunity for them to get the ball rolling right out of the gate.
And that's the main reason that Gunnar Henderson's batting leadoff for this team is because he's the best player on the team. They want to get him the most at bats possible. Right. You know, and by batting him leadoff, you're doing that. He's going to hit more than everybody else.
For sure.
We gotta get rolling here. I gotta be someplace at noon, and we have a lot more comments. So I don't want to skip all of them, but I gotta skip some of them. But I do want to put this up here. AJ says Dillon is a great co-host. By the way, I agree, Dillon. You always do a bang up job on here. I love what you add to the show. That's no knock against Ryan. I love what Ryan does too. But Dillon, you're always great at it. That's why you're my first call when Ryan can't do the show.
No, I appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
Any news on Tyler Wells? Is he done for the year? I don't know if we mentioned this before or after your comment, but Tyler Wells, it was announced the other day that he has started throwing down in Sarasota. I don't know how long it's going to – they just say he started throwing. He hasn't thrown off a mound or anything yet, but I think that he's on the way back, and I expect him to end up in the Orioles bullpen maybe in another month if he doesn't have any setbacks. KC has a better record than us now also. Do they? Does Kansas City really have a better record than the Orioles right now?
Yes, they're holding the top wild card spot. The Orioles are holding the second, I believe.
33-19. I mean, the Orioles have less losses in the loss column. So they've played 3 more games than the Orioles. They have 2 more wins and one more loss. So the Orioles took 4 of 6. Like you look at the Yankees, the best record in the American League, I guess. The Orioles took 3 of 4. You look at Kansas City, the Orioles took 4 of 6. You look at Seattle, the Orioles took 2 of 3. The best teams in the American League, the Orioles are like 15-4 against them. You know, like it's everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, the Orioles have what right now? A .633 win percentage? Yeah, a .633 win percentage, which is on pace for 102.5 wins. And we're talking. You wouldn't know
it to listen or follow me.
Yeah, I mean they're on pace for 103 wins right now, and they're holding a second wild card spot. What is this crap?
Yeah, it's garbage. The Royals are good. They're going to come back down to earth. I think Gunnar Henderson is good at baseball. I think you're correct, Don. I do.
Yep.
AJ, I am leery of trading with the Cards after that debacle trade with them last year at the deadline. Yeah, but that trade didn't really work out for either team. A guy who I'm having a feud with right now. I won't say his name because he doesn't deserve to have his name uttered from my lips. He seems to think that the Orioles got fleeced because Zach Showalter's pitching well in high A. He's an idiot. But look,
the deal was fine.
The deal was fine. Flaherty sucked for us, and Drew Rom had one great start against us last year. The deal was fine. They're not going to make the same deal again this year.
No.
Let's see. For all the fathers out there, go Padres. Come on, take these next 2. Please do. There's too many. We got to get out of here. Guys, I hate when I have to skip your comments. It's 11:43. It's been the longest show of the year, and I have to be someplace in 17 minutes. I'm pretty sure minutes away, and I still have to get dressed. So thank you so much for tuning in. Dillon, thank you so much for joining the show. It is always awesome getting to do this show with you, man. A lot of fun. Again, nothing against Ryan. Love Ryan. I can't wait to have him back on the show, but you're awesome, so I appreciate your help. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners, fans, viewers, interactors. Thank you so much for joining in on the show and just watching the show. Without you, we certainly do not have a show. Until next